How to play chess. It's really simple. Here are the basics to get you on your way to being the next. The next. Let me see. Famous. Chess. Champions. Bobby Fischer? Robert James Fischer was an American chess grandmaster and the 11th world chess champion. A chess prodigy, he won his first of a record 8 U.S. championships at the age of 14. In 1964, he won with an 11-0 score, the only perfect score in the history of the tournament. Wow. Are you feeling it? This could be you. You could be the next chess grandmaster. And it started from watching this video. Who would have thunk it? So I am about to give you the fundamental steps of how to play chess. First things first. You are gonna need to know how to set up your board. Always have the white or light square in the right-hand corner of each player. Your board may or may not have coordinates. The board is an 8x8 with a total of 64 tiles or squares. There are files which are lettered A through H. Or ranks which are numbers 1 through 8. You can see, this board has coordinates. This is your pawn. Place all your pawns on the second row or rank. Each player has 8 pawns. Now, in the first row you have all the other pieces. This is your rook. They are on the outsides of the row. This is your knight. It goes next to the rook. Then, you have this guy. He is your bishop. Notice what color square he is on because this will be helpful later. Here is your king. He goes next. And last but certainly not least is your queen. Always remember the queen starts on the square that is her color. So if she is white, she should be on the white square. Same for the black queen. She goes on the black square. Now you know how to set up your board. A good way to practice is to see who can set up the board the fastest. Next step is knowing how each piece moves in play. All of the 6 pieces move differently. You can never move through other pieces, but the knight can jump over others when he moves, and you will see why, and you can never land on a square that is already occupied by one of your own pieces. You can land on a square that is occupied by your opponent's piece, and this is called capturing. You are normally moving pieces around the board to either capture other pieces, defend your pieces from being captured, or to control important places on the board. Pawns are unique because they move and capture in different ways. Pawns must move forward or capture diagonally. Pawns can only move 1 square at a time, except the very first time it moves you can choose to either move forward 1 or 2 squares. Pawns can only capture 1 square diagonally in front of them. They can never move or capture backward. When there is a piece directly in front of him, he can never capture or move past that piece. The rook may move as far as you want, but only forward, backwards, and side to side. The rooks remain powerful when they work together and protect each other. Your knight is very unique in the way that it moves. He moves 2 squares in one direction and then 1 more square at an angle of 90 degrees, creating an L shape. He is the only one that can move over other pieces. You can move your bishop as far as you want, but only diagonally. Each bishop starts on 1 color square and must always stay on that color. Bishops work well together because they cover up each other's weaknesses. Your king is the most important piece, but he is the weakest. He can only move once in any direction. Forward, backward, or diagonally. He can never move into a place where he could be in check or where he could be captured. When a piece on the board can capture the king, this is called check. Your queen is the most powerful piece. She can move in any one straight direction, forward, backward, left, right, or diagonally, for as far as possible, as long as she doesn't move through any of her own pieces. Now that you know all your pieces and how they move, you need to know these special rules that will set you apart from others and can help you on your way to be a grandmaster. Okay, so there are 2 special rules that involve your pawn. Your pawn can be promoted to any piece of your choosing when it reaches the end of the other side of the board. It cannot be promoted to a pawn or the king. Some people think that you can only promote pieces that have been captured, but this is not the case. Most people promote pawns to queens because they are so powerful. Pawns are the only piece that can be promoted.
En passant.
Or en passant. This is French for in passing. You could be accused of cheating because some people are not aware of this special rule. But don't worry, you are not cheating, and knowing how to perform this action will put you ahead of the others. So listen carefully, and it can be tricky but is quite simple. If a pawn moves out 2 squares on its first move, and when it does land by an opponent's pawn, the opponent has the option of capturing that pawn. You must choose to capture the pawn immediately after the pawn moves for the first time, or that option will not be available. If you choose to use en passant, just simply place your pawn in the square diagonally where it would have captured the pawn if it didn't pass you. Very odd, which is why it is a special rule. The next special rule includes your king and rook, and it is called castling. On your turn, you would move your king 2 spaces over and move the rook right next to the king on the opposite side. This is called castling. In order to castle, it must be the king and rook's very first move. There cannot be any pieces in between the rook and king, and the king may not be in check or pass through check. You are going to notice that when you castle in one direction, the king is closer to the side of the board. This castling is called king side, as opposed to castling the queen side, where you would pass through where the queen sits. Whichever direction you choose, left or right, the kings always only move 2 spaces. Now you are officially ready to play the game of chess. Hip hip hooray! Except there is a rule as to who starts the game. This is easy, the player with the white pieces always goes first. So most people use chance to find who starts the game. You can flip a coin, or put a white piece in one hand and a black in another hand, and let your opponent pick a hand. If they choose white, they go first, and vice versa. Now all you need to know is how to win. The object of the game is to checkmate your opponent's king. This happens when the king is put into check and cannot get out of check. Remember, to check is when you can capture the king. So checkmate is to be able to capture the king and he cannot get out of check. When the king is in check, you must get out on the very next turn. You do not have a choice. The king can only get out of check 3 ways. 1. By moving out of the way, but he cannot castle. 2. Block the check with another piece, or 3. Capture the piece that is checking the king. If a king cannot escape a check, you don't have to capture it, the game is over and you win.